welcome to the Coachable Players podcast. This podcast is built on the belief that the most successful athletes, employees, and business leaders share a trait. They are coachable. Okay, it's exciting times here for the Coachable Players podcast here. Just some quick little updates here. The past couple months I've been creating the Coachable self-assessment test, and it's out in pilot phase right now. There's a handful of high school students in the Harrisburg area that are filling it out, and that's exciting. So stay tuned on that. There's more coming on that. And then I'm going to be releasing an 8-part series here. This is exciting stuff here, people. 8-part series on why being coachable helps you in sports, business, and life. So stay tuned. All good stuff. But now I'm super excited, super pumped about this. I told my wife the past week, I'm like, I get to interview a guy who's been coaching a long time. He's retired now. So we're gonna talk to a guy here who's been in the trenches for decades. You know, we talk about being coachable and what's that mean? What's it look like? How do you help someone become coachable or make them be more coachable? And this is a person who was in the trenches, like I said, for decades. And he's also my cousin, so that's extra cool. So very cool here. Bill Swan. He was previously the head basketball coach for Hempfield Area High School. That's the Hempfield on the western part of the state in Westmoreland County. Bill, welcome to the show, brother. What's going on?
Going? Nothing, man. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks. Really,
Nice.
really excited to be on there. And I think it's so neat that you're doing this.
Yeah, it's fun. Helping young minds, let people know the benefits of being coachable here.
Yep.
And you brought a topic that I love. This is going to be so cool to talk about this, about a coach. He's going to talk about the players you'll never forget and why. But before we jump into that, you want to take a minute or two, a few minutes here to introduce yourself. Who is Bill Swan? The man, the myth, the legend. Who is
Yeah,
Bill?
I'm a legend. But I grew up just about a half hour away in Connersville, Pennsylvania. Played basketball there. Went to Westminster College, and at the time I went to Westminster, it was actually a full scholarship. It was NAI, and they gave scholarships, and a lot of guys were just really good. I
Yeah.
AV my freshman year. I played as the point guard, played for a legend, Coach Ron Galbraith. And then I decided my sophomore year to just kind of wrap up my playing career. But I loved basketball so much that I took a walk up the street and went to Wilmington High School, which was the school in our town at college. And I asked, hey, do you need any help with basketball? So I was a 20-year-old kid that was going to be a junior in college. And the guy said, sure, I'd love to have you. So it's a really unique and crazy start to my career. I actually got to coach JV basketball while I was a junior and a senior in college. So it was a great experience. Wilmington High School was coming off a WPL championship, I think, in 1987. They had great athletes, great kids, great football program. They still do. They still have great sports at Wilmington. So we're a little small school where we went to college. And my first job then was at Central Cambria in Evansburg. I got to coach some freshmen, some girls basketball, some baseball. I just coached anything they asked me to. And then I got to coach at Portage High School for 1 year. Then I went back to my hometown of Connersville and got to be the head coach. And then an opportunity opened up for our family to move over to Hempfield in 2001. And then I had a little intermission. I had a
Yeah.
great career. I had a little intermission where we went to Greensburg Central Catholic. My sons and we got to play in the WPL championship, and we actually get to play in the state championship in 2011. Played
Awesome. I was there.
in Metep Charter at Bryce Jordan Center, which was, a life memory. And then was back at Hempfield and decided last year, after 36 years, it was just time 38 years in basketball and 36 years in teaching, just time to retire and relax a little bit. And I still substitute teach, and I still run a basketball camp every summer. So I just got the flyers sent out for camp. So I'm still around the game, and I love it so much. I just can't imagine not having basketball part of my life.
Awesome. And that's why you're on here, brother. This is awesome. Good stuff here. So, like I said, the topic is the players you'll never forget and why. So as you were giving thought to this episode and this podcast topic, just real quick, when you think of your coaching career, did players start popping up and you started thinking of players and
Uh,
what sort of things stood out? Yeah.
well, I mean, in a funny way, I'm lucky. I started coaching in 19. I still in 1987, and every now and then a kid from Wilmington will pop up on my phone. I taught up at Central Cambria in Ebensburg. I still get text messages from kids from Central Cambria. There's a group of Connersville boys that I still talk to all the time, and now I'm actually substitute teaching some of their sons. And, being here at Hempfield for 25 years, our network of alumni and our closeness is unmatched. I mean, I've had so many coaches say they would love to have the relationship with their players that I have. Like every year, 40 of our former players come to my house the night before Thanksgiving for a big party. Uh,
Nice.
35, 40 kids come to my house every summer for the NBA draft. And some of these guys, they've been gone for 21, 22, 23 years. They're married and working and have kids. And there's probably, honestly, there's maybe one or two kids that I've coached at Hempfield that I still don't talk to at least once every couple months. So it's hard for me to say, there are favorites, but I think in talking with you, there are qualities about certain kids that came to my mind. And what's funny is the kids that came to my mind. This is actually crazy, but I've always talked about this. The kids that came to my mind, there are probably 3 to 6 of them that I focused on, and if you can believe it, all of these boys, they're brothers from 3 different families, and they're all 3-boy families.
Yeah.
So I always said I love to coach the third brother, and I'm sitting here talking to you, and that's what you were.
I'm the third brother. Yep.
Yeah, there's something about a third brother. They got their butt beat every day growing up. They were never allowed to win. They were never handed anything. Their parents really didn't spoil them too bad because they didn't really have time to even worry about them too much.
Yeah.
I've always been lucky. I've had some sets of brothers, and these third brothers they're just great to coach. They're so easy to coach. They ask for nothing. They don't expect to be given anything. And they my youngest son, who's one of the boys, Logan, he's our youngest son. He's almost 30 years old now. My wife always said he better have turned out okay because he got to sit and watch his brothers make all the mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of coachable kids. They watch their brothers. They watch their parents go through. Their brothers being coached, and they learn the right way to do things. And they just don't want to disappoint. They want to please, and they want to play as hard as they can for their team and their friends and their coaches and their families.
Agree. Agree. Being the youngest of three. And I said this when my brother passed away. I said this. It was he pushed me so hard, and I wanted to prove
Yep.
that I was equal to him. I was the youngest, and he was strong as an ox, so I wasn't equal strength wise. But I always wanted to show I was equal, even though I wasn't. I just wanted to
Yep.
compete harder, and he always pushed me harder. And yeah, I could. When you were saying that, that's what I started thinking about. Is
Yeah.
my brothers used to beat the crap out of me, and I loved it. I learned so much from it.
Yeah, but when you're the older brother, there's nobody there to do that for you. You're the king of the house, and there's nobody in it. And that's in today's society. I think we need more of that.
Yep.
We're struggling with employees. We're struggling with teammates. We're struggling with students. It doesn't hurt to have a little nudge, a little push. And when you grow up that little brother, you're from the day you're in diapers, you're getting pushed around.
Yeah, definitely. So so you kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's maybe dive in a little bit here. When it comes to those three that you said,
Yep.
um, what kind of made them different? You know, when you look at them and other players that you coached.
Well, I think the three younger brothers. I'll start with the three younger brothers.
Yeah.
They're very selfless. They none of those three little brothers cared about how many points they scored. Uh, I'll jump ahead. One is a head principal at Mount Lebanon High School in Pittsburgh, which is one of the premier school
Yep.
districts in Pennsylvania, and he's already a principal there. My son Logan is a mortgage broker, runs a couple side businesses, hustles all the time. And the third one just got hired at Hempfield on Monday night to be a physics and a math teacher. I mean, they're just they're selfless people. Uh, they weren't in our program to ask for something for themselves or and in all honesty, in a funny way, they were easy targets for me to yell at. You know,
Yeah.
they were always they're always the guys who kind of took the brunt of everything because they could take it.
Yeah.
There was never any hard. I mean, I'm sure sometimes they were upset with me, but I think what stands out to them is they're used to adversity. They're used to not be handed everything. Uh, and like I said, even about their parents of all three of these kids. I mean, I never ever did anything wrong to these boys, but I don't think their parents would have cared.
Yeah.
But they were the third brother, and they got the scraps, whatever was left, and they just wanted their kids to be coached, and they appreciated their kids being coached, and like I said too, they got to watch. Now I'll flip over to their older brothers. All three of these guys had brothers who played for me, and they're three of my favorites too. One of them started as a freshman. One of them was the quarterback, which you can relate to. He's a quarterback on the football team and a star basketball player. And the other one is my son Jake, who went up with us to Greensburg Central, who was easily probably the best teammate of any kid I've ever coached. I mean, if you'd ever asked the alumni who played for me, they would all say Jake Swan's the best kid they ever met. It's just, so these little brothers got to watch these guys do that, and I think that helps so much too. It's just such a model for them to be a great teammate, to be a great leader. And they were, they just had no trouble fitting in the program and no trouble fitting in the team, and you need that today. It's hard to coach a bunch of eyes. You don't want a bunch of eyes.
Yep.
You want a bunch of we's and little.
Yep.
These guys they just exemplified that every day.
Yeah. Here's a comment that was made to me last football season, which was one of the reasons why I got into creating this podcast. A local football coach, he's a couple years younger than me, and I said, "Hey, how's the season going?" And he's like, "OB, this is not like when you and I played." He's like, back then we would run through a brick wall for our teammates, for our coaches, for our team, whatever. It's team first. Now it's how many likes on my TikTok,
Yep.
how do I look? How's my uniform look? I got to get good pictures for my video I'm
Your
posting.
huddle highlights,
Yeah. Yeah. The huddle highlights. Exactly.
Most of these kids have huddle highlights up before they go to bed on a Friday night in football. They might
Yeah.
and they might have lost 15-0.
Yeah. We had a game. Northern had a game last year. This wideout caught a touchdown pass and spiked the ball and started dancing. And okay, you see that in the NFL, whatever. But then you look at the scoreboard and it was like 50-7, and they're losing 50-7. And it's like, what?
That pretty much sums it up. But
it does.
He was the show for that 10 seconds.
Yeah. But okay, let's get back on track here now. So you got those 3 or 6 that you were thinking about. Maybe this question is about them or someone else. But was there anything that surprised you over time when you started coaching those coachable players, from the way that they changed, either internally or either when you coached them or afterwards, whatever, any sort of changes that you saw or anything that surprised you with them? And
No, I don't think. I mean, one of the boys just came with his crew and landscaped our yard this past summer. He just called me the other day and said, "Coach, whatever you need, I'll just come do it by myself, and you're not paying me anything." But the other one, who's my son, just said, cancel your pressure washer. Dad, you're not pressure washing your deck this year. I'm coming up. I'm taking care of everything for you. The other one, a guy that we coach with here at Hempfield, Coach Kalp, who's in the WPL Hall of Fame, is a softball coach. He's probably the greatest softball coach in the history of our state. He just passed away sadly last week.
Oh,
And the other boy, he called me to talk about him. And I mean, their loyalty just never ends. I mean, anytime I go through anything personally or anything that happens to my family, they're the first guys to call. Like I woke up this morning from a text message from one of them. We just had a real sad time lately. One of our former players' dads just passed away at only like 66, 67. And of course, one of his little brothers is the one who texted me today to tell me when the viewing was going to be and tell me, it just,
yeah, nice
I wouldn't
family.
say anything surprises me. I'm not surprised at all what they've become. And because of, like I said, I think a big part of it is, I coached high school basketball. I didn't get with these kids till they were 16 years old. The parents are a big part.
Oh yeah.
We've had our share the other way too, where I do everything I can for a kid and sacrifice part of my life for these kids. And some of the parents just don't appreciate it. And some of the parents aren't happy and they can make things miserable. So
Yeah.
a big shout out to these guys goes to their parents and they have competitive moms. They have moms who don't baby their boys and just like you did, and
Yep.
and that goes a long way into making my job a lot easier.
That's awesome. So you got a lot of years coaching, a lot of games, a lot of players, and this one might be hard to answer on the spot here.
That's
But
right.
do you have any stories of a player that fully bought into coaching and how it impacted the team? Any sort of stories out there that impacted you?
Yeah, I do. This group of kids, it's actually one of the group of kids that one of these boys came that he played with. We were having trouble with our point guard one year. He was just real backward, real timid, nervous. We went down into the locker room and I just said, I'll just call him Timmy. I said, hey, Timmy, this team's not going to go anywhere if you don't start playing. This team's not going to go anywhere if you don't develop some confidence. And one of these boys that I'm talking about, he just jumped right in. He said, let me take over for this coach, And he was best friends with this kid since kindergarten. He said, you're a baby. You're a sissy. You're not running the team the way you should. You're not playing the way you should. You're not listening the way you should. Listen to coach, buy into what's going on here, and let's go. And I think one or two nights later, I think he went out and had a career high at like 16 or 18 and played. We still laugh about it today. Played the best game he ever played in his career. So
Awesome.
it's always nice to have that support. And I mean, you want the kids to listen to you, but sometimes they get tired of your voice, and
Yeah.
sometimes the voice needs to come from inside the locker room and
Yep.
from like my son Logan, whenever he came back from football his senior year to be on the basketball team, we have every kid in our team vote for captain. And when we had like 21, 22 kids and all 22 kids voted him a captain. I mean, it's just,
That's
those are
awesome.
the things you're proud of. And the other two boys, Joel and Dom that I'm talking about, I mean, they were unanimous captains and they were just so revered and so loved by their teammates that, and like I said, I'm sure sometimes they did get mad. I'm sure they got frustrated with me and frustrated sometimes with some things. But the example I'd give is, it was always team first, and that just made my job so much easier to keep our groups connected and to keep them tight and committed to the common goal. Was when inside that locker room, I'm not being questioned. I'm not being doubted. I'm not being cussed about. I'm not being made fun of. Which I'm sure all those things happen.
Yeah.
Everybody says something about their coach, but the core stays strong and the core stays together because of these kids.
Yeah. Do you recall, or do you know if you had any players that kind of struggled with being coached and didn't like the team atmosphere, and then they
Oh,
somehow
Most
somehow
certainly.
switched and became?
Uh, yeah, I mean, you get those letters. You get those letters as they get older. Now that I'm so stinking old.
Yeah.
You get those letters when those kids get older and they say, hey, I didn't really want to hear it at the time, but thanks. Now that I'm raising kids, now that I have a job, now that I'm married, I know what you were trying to do for me. And that's
Well,
truly why we do it. You know, I mean,
yeah.
like we have a picture frame hanging back the hallway from our Greensburg Central Catholic team, and one of the kids wrote, "I just want to say thanks for you staying on me, even though most of the time I didn't want to hear it."
That's
I know
awesome.
that I know that you had my best interest at heart. And sometimes in the hallway when I'm having a bad day, I just stop. It's right in the hallway right outside our bedroom. I just stop and read that what Danny said. And Danny's not a teacher, and Danny's not a
Awesome.
coach. And I don't think there's any. When your kids become when your old players become coaches. I just had a former player from, my gosh, let's count now, 28, 29 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He's a state policeman. He just called and said, "I just ran some of your plays with my team in the sixth grade state championship at Penn State."
Awesome. That's
He said,
awesome.
I just wanted to say thanks. I wanted to say you need a new playbook.
Yeah.
But that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate flattery when they coach and then they call you or they text you and they say thanks, or they just call and just give you a report of how things went. That's
That
nothing.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories like that from when they played though? Like they became coachable. You kind of seen a switch overnight or a switch, from
Yeah, we just had a situation in Hempfield with some things going on, and I just found out later that one of the boys who, I'll just be honest, he came from a family that didn't believe in me, and the boys told me how he was crying in the locker room, just so upset about some things that were said about me, and he wanted everybody to know that he didn't agree with his father, and he backed me, and he felt bad, and these guys just these guys just graduated, and they gave me the ultimate gift. They just gave me a gift. They sent my wife and I to the Duke game at Pitt.
oh, cool.
Got us a hotel room, got us dinner, got us an Uber, and this kid that I'm talking about, he was the first one to Venmo his money in. With the with
Awesome.
the with the little note. They all did it behind my back, and so I mean that's pretty awesome. You
That
don't
is awesome.
you don't you don't you don't you don't coach for the parents.
No.
You really don't. I mean, you don't want the parents all against you, and you don't want to mistreat their kids. They're handing you their kids, and you want to treat them with respect. So you want to have a relationship. You have to. I think in today's world, you have to have a relationship with the parents somewhat. You can't be these old school coaches. I speak to no one.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not talking to anybody. Don't you dare speak to me. Those days are dead.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's hard when those things crisscross. What they're hearing at home isn't what you want them to hear, but you just keep coaching, keep loving them, and
Yep.
hopefully they believe in you.
Amen. So we talked about some changes and some difficult situations, I guess, or whatever. But now let's talk about some defining moments and some good stories. You kind of touched on it a little bit when you talked about the state championship game, but maybe touch on some specific moments or games that live on in your memory and kind of have a lasting impact on you.
Well, the Western Final when we were at Greensburg Central Catholic, was a rematch from the WPL championship game. We played Monessen, who was just great. They were coached by JoJo Salvino, who's going to
Sure.
be in every Hall of Fame there ever was. He just retired with I don't even know how many, 900 wins, and we beat them in the Western Final down at Gateway to go to the state championship. So that'll be one we'll never forget. Um, some buzzer beater shots, some big buzzer beater shots. Those are ones you don't forget. I'll never forget. I made these little tickets, WPL playoff tickets for our guys, and gave them to them. And I said, if we win tonight, this is our ticket to the playoffs. And we had a big road win down at Penn Trafford years ago, and the kids met me in the locker room with water bottles and squirt guns and just like you see on TV. So
That's
I
cool.
saw that video on my phone. So I mean, the wins, as you get older and you get away from it, you remember the wins, you remember the losses, but I mean, I know it sounds corny, but you really remember the relationships. And that's what I miss the most, just being
Yeah,
on a team. I started being on a team when I was 8 years old, and I got to be on a team until I was 58. So
that's awesome.
it's not a bad deal.
Yeah. I was going to ask, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe dive deeper into it. Now that you're not with the whistle anymore, you're not at the practices or the coach. How do you measure success now when you go back to 30 years ago or whatever? How did you measure success then compared to now looking back? And how did that
Well,
change?
I was a lunatic 30 years ago. I mean, all my old players say that I'm soft. They say that I'm too easy, that I'm not giving these kids today the same experiences that I gave those guys. I mean, they took me on the parking lot years ago and basically had me up against my car, yelling at me, saying, "You're too soft. Who are you? You used to make us wear the same shoes, wear the same socks. Nobody could wear a T-shirt. Nobody could have facial hair. Nobody could have an earring. Nobody, And as you get older, you just kind of forget about those things. But those guys don't, and obviously they appreciated those things and they appreciated the rules and the standards but I look back at, but I don't apologize for wanting to win. I mean, what are we playing for?
Yeah.
We're keeping score. I don't think there's anything wrong with. I had a parent one time tell my wife and my son was pitching and they lost and the parent said, "Your son's a sore loser." And I said, "Well, thanks for the compliment."
Yeah.
He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't throw his glove or anything like that. He
Yeah.
should everybody, but he was upset that they lost. In Little League baseball. And the lady said, "That's a sore loser." And I said, "Oh, that's not how we read it in our family."
Yeah. I hear
Like,
you.
so I mean, times are different, but uh, I think kids are great today. I think kids get a bad rap today. I think society's changed. I think parents have changed,
Oh yeah.
but I don't think kids on the weekends do anything worse than what we did. I think actually we were worse.
I think so. I would agree. I would agree.
So I think that they uh, today you just try to coach them and lead them and lead by example and be there for them and just more than anything let your kids know that you're always there for them. And I think I did that 30 years ago, or I wouldn't still be getting these text messages and these phone calls. So
There you go.
other than just being a lunatic and getting thrown out of games and getting technicals, my principals had to sit me down at Central Cambria and say, "If you get one more technical, we're firing you." So you got to learn that. And then years later, I won a sportsmanship award at Hempfield. The officials picked me as
uh,
with the most sportsmanship, and everybody got a big chuckle out of that. But so I guess I changed a little bit.
A little, yeah. Let's stay on. You kind of talked it a little bit. Let's stay here a little bit about today's athletes. Like if we do have some young athletes listening, what can they learn about the players you'll never forget? What can they learn, and what lessons and what takeaways can they have from those six players that you talked about earlier?
Always be the hardest worker. Always try to be the first one up in the gym. Always try to be the last one to leave. I know that's corny and everybody says that, but these guys that I think about, they hurried. They didn't go out in the parking lot to talk to their girlfriend. They didn't go out in the parking lot to get their duffel bag. They didn't walk around the hallway after school. They raced down to the locker room and they got up to the gym, and then I'd have to literally grab them and scream at them to get them out of the gym and get them out of the locker room and make them leave and make them go home. That's one thing. I think number two is, always try your best to put your team ahead of you. Try to remember it's not all about you. I mean, AAU kind of is. I kind of understand AAU. You're trying to go out there and better your game but I'll tell you what. I bet you college coaches. I know hundreds of them. I know they want to see a kid in AAU passes the ball, who helps
Mhm.
the opponent up off the floor, who takes a charge, who points at his buddy when he or she gives him a great assist. So being a great teammate's never going to hurt you. You know, I think you get confused if you think it's all about your points, because it's not. You know,
Yep.
college college coaches aren't looking. I mean, sure they want to see kids who can score, but you know, you look at these teams that are playing in the Final Four right now. I'm sure they have great teammates and great leaders. And well, the kid that beat my favorite team's Duke, and the kid that made the shot to beat Duke, the Mullins kid from UConn, that was the only shot he made the whole game.
Yep. Yeah.
Only three. And Patrick and then Caravan had the confidence to throw it to him, and he made it. So what's that
Yep.
tell the Caravan kid as a leader? I mean, he could have shot it himself.
Yeah.
He passed it to a wide open teammate, and UConn moves on, and Duke goes home. So I think just being the hardest worker, putting the team ahead of yourself. You know, don't forget about academics. You know, you can get just as much money going to college for your academics as you can for athletics. More kids get money for academics than they do athletics.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fact. So don't forget about school, and don't forget. You know, I always say too, don't forget how you treat people at school. Don't walk around school like you're something special. You know, be good to the janitor, be good to the cafeteria ladies,
Yep.
be good to your teachers. You know, be good to your classmates. Be good to that kid who's maybe sitting by themselves in lunch and doesn't have anybody to talk to, and just try to be remembered as a good person.
Yep. Amen.
I think that's the greatest compliment any parent can hear, is that, hey, your kid was a good kid, or any coach can hear. Your players, I saw your players do this in school today. I saw your players do this, you know, and that just makes you feel great that maybe you played a small part in that.
Yeah. Agreed. So this question I don't think applies, but if it does, let me know. I wanted to ask you to close. I wanted to say of the players you'll never forget, are there any you haven't talked to in a while? And if you ran into them, what would you say to them? But it sounds like you talked to all your players. It sounds like
Yeah, I talked to almost all of them. There's a few probably that, you know, maybe just went the other way, and or maybe we just didn't have a great experience, and we just don't talk to each other as much. But I mean, the guys that I'm talking about today, I talk to all the time. You know, uh, every holiday we all try to talk. You know, by text, or you know they'll text me. Just with a question about a job, or there's hardly a day goes by one of them doesn't text me and ask me to be a reference, write them a letter of recommendation, which is awesome. You know, that brought me to tears a couple months ago with my wife. There was like 5 straight nights. My old players texted me 5 nights in a row for a letter recommendation for a college or a summer job or an internship. Or these are the kids I just got done coaching. So you know uh, I just guess I would say I gave you everything I had, and you guys gave me everything you had, and it was fun. And now we're friends, and now we move on.
awesome. Just it's been an awesome interview, amazing, and it's just so awesome. All the lives that you touched, all the people that you impacted, and vice versa, in the way that they impacted you and helped you. And
I'm lucky. I'm very lucky.
yeah,
It'd be hard to think that people just teach school for 35 or 36 years and never coach or never run a club or never run an activity, because sure, it's nice to teach a kid math for 40 minutes, but you never build those relationships inside the classroom like you do on a playing or a musical or a band or anything like that.
yeah.
You know, that's where the relationships are built, and that's, to me, that's what it's all about.
Well, hats off to you. An awesome career. You touched a lot of people, impacted a lot of people positively. That's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you for thank you for talking today. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me. I loved it. This is really neat, and I wish you the best. If you ever need any help with anything, let me know.
Absolutely.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.